A few of them were selected by Arthur Andersen, Boston Consulting Group. These were my bright students in University of Science Malaysia. And it's wonderful because these students maintain contact with me. How I know this is that I ask them, how's your work and what's things happening, again, through email that they communicate with me. They said that wherever they are posted, because the minute they get into the organization, they are automatically trained in the US and then get posted everywhere in the world. At the end of the day, every one of you will log in and send whatever that you have generated that day, the knowledge that you have generated that day, to the knowledge vault. The Arthur Andersen Knowledge Vault, the Boston Consulting Group Knowledge Vault, the depository. So that future agents, anybody else who is dealing with that particular country, now has background information about that country.
And that's it's represent an infrastructure for us. Yeah.
The infrastructure is in that organization to provide that. They use ICT. Because everybody, at the end of the day, will open up and then, with the password, whatever, enter what they learn for that day.
Transfer all experiences.
Yes. Digitize the experience into.
When we collected, make knowledge.
Can your organization do that? Now, for this matter, my colleague, the faculty member of this university, can do the same thing. Every one of you, when you do your project, is channeled back to the school. The school now can generate intelligence about, because majority of your project is about Jordan, correct? Or organizations about Jordan or things that is related to Jordan. That's what we're doing in our university. Most of the projects are about Malaysia. So now we are generating intelligence about our country. And that's done through knowledge management. Okay? So have I given you a clue? You need to know how to, the organizational capital, how to utilize it for your organization. Now, you own your own business. Do you do anything similar, something like that? Again, I know it's company secret.
Yes, no. Like this?
No. Try. Okay? So, what is accounting for people? To wrap up, before I move into what we did in Malaysia, the task force on HDM was established in UK and is to look at the performance measures used to assess investment in human capital. Consider best practices in human capital reporting and the performance of measures that are most valuable to stakeholders. Establish and champion the business case for producing such report. So, based on the task force recommendation, here are what they propose. First, have a strategic focus, communicating clearly, fairly, unambiguously the link between human capital management policies and practices, its business strategies, and its performance. Remember just now I showed only human capital, social capital, and leading to intellectual capital?
Yes.
Okay. Now that equation, you link to the business performance. How is all of this intelligence that you have will help you to achieve better sales, better revenues. Okay?
Better solutions.
Better solutions. For example, what is the most favorite brand of Jordanian on whatever? Do you have that? Somebody got to do it, and it's you. Yeah? Now, for some of you, since you're doing it for your company, use the projects that you do for MBA to build intelligence for your company. That's what I advise my students. You're not doing this just for me, you know. You're doing it not just for grades. You're doing it so that when you finish that project, bring it back to your company and say, look, this is what I found out.
As a result.
Yes, as a research. And more importantly, because you're doing it as a student, your competitor are not that concerned. Meaning, you're doing it as an academic exercise. But that information can be used as intelligence. It's different between you're doing it as a company market research. Many of your competitors or your participants will not participate because they don't want you to know, right? If it's an academic exercise, a lot of times people tend to be more open to the idea. Yeah. All right. It must be balanced and objective. Provide information in a form that enables comparison over time. Whenever you generate report year to year, make sure it's comparable. I've seen even in Malaysia, this year they do it this way, next year they do it another way. You cannot compare. It has to be comparable. And lastly, include information on HCM in OFR, public offerings, by public listed companies. Develop guidelines on key indicators, consult with key industry players, and standards board to monitor the extent and depth of human capital reporting in OFRs. Now, UK has done this. Malaysia, we look at this. Before that, why should it be reported? To assure investors their investment are being used in the best possible effect, assess organizational value, help employees and prospective employees on performance that are valued. Many of us, we do busy work, correct? As a lecturer, I do a lot of that. I am a deputy dean and I'm a head of a school. What do you think I love the most? I'm a head of the business school. I'm also a deputy dean. What do you think I love the most about my job?
Maybe training.
Nothing.
Results.
When I go to class at 6:30, that's when I'm the most happiest. Why? Because between 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock or 8:30 to 6 o'clock, I'm doing busy work. Meetings, dealing with student issues, doing a lot of policy matters, things that actually do not contribute to my academic development. When I'm in the classroom between 6:30 to 9:30, this is where I see a lot of these light bulbs flashing. That's when I'm most happiest. But I still do the job. Okay, I still do the job. Right. So, lastly, in Malaysia, HCM is not widely reported. A study done in 2008. So again, I'm not here to ask Jordanian to start doing this. No. But we ourselves are not practicing it. Yeah. Only 36 companies disclose information on training and 31 companies reported staff development. Small number of companies report their words and appreciation to staff dedication. Companies that disclose HC items are not elaborated on the measures. No info on return staff or training investment. Remember ROTI? Return on training investment? No info on that. And staff costs are written off in the income statement. So, in conclusion, HCM reporting can bring more value to the company instead of financial numbers. That's why you have to report for it. Secondly, will become important information to seek by investor to assess companies' true value in the future. For Malaysia, most of the Malaysian companies are still not adopting HCM or providing transparent report. This was 2008. We saw a marked improvement by 2012. Many companies are reporting. So part of it is because of voluntary disclosure. They are disclosing more. And lastly, government must set up a task force to develop guidelines on HCM to attract investment. So as part of FDI, we need to highlight this because UK now demands what is your HCM, human capital management, before we want to invest in you. Okay. So what have I done with you today? Just for this segment is to highlight how do you account for human capital in your organization. Now, sorry, your name is?
Me?
No.
My name?
Ruba. Now I'm going to try to answer Ruba's question. How Malaysia did it. Okay. Now earlier, I think Prof was saying that there's no break. Do you need to take a bathroom break? 2 minutes? Anybody? You're okay? Can I proceed? Okay, good. Again, first rule of adult learning. You always must make sure that your learners are comfortable. Otherwise, you'll be there. Please finish. Alright, so questions. When I put Q&A, usually it is a refresher. Are you a HR, HC or IC? What is the state of HCM in Jordan? Who's responsible for HCM in Jordan? What are the government initiatives related to HCM in Jordan? And what is your role in HCM? Okay. Alright, so let's go to Malaysia. Again, I'm sharing this just to share with you what we did. This is what I presented at the conference yesterday. The focus was to highlight our experiences in capacity building and also in human capital development in order to make Malaysia a developed nation by 2020. And then I will show you what we did in terms of transformation initiative. It was so funny because there were a few presenters with me and they were talking about the Arab Spring. And I said, yes, we did something similar, but ours is more transformational. You know, we did have problems, you know, people showing dissatisfaction. But in general, this was quelled through the documents. And I'll show you those documents. And also, how we, in order to do human capital development, did all parties, get all parties involved. Government, industry, academia. That you have in Jordan? You have, right? Okay. Now, what I was made to understand, that industrial zone was created to provide employment to Jordanians, correct?
Yes.
From the time it was created in 1997, if I'm not mistaken, around that time, to now, from 55% Jordanians working there, now only 23% Jordanians are working there. The rest are foreign workers. What happened? When you talk about human capital development, something did not happen.
Something wrong.
The shifting.
Again, I dare not say something wrong. You know, I might get into trouble with the ministry. Yeah. The issue is you need to look at this critically. Remember I said that my PhD student is creating intelligence for Jordan? They are stepping out, they're doing it in Malaysia, to look at what's happening in Jordan. Then they want to bring back and tell whoever is responsible, this is what is happening. Okay? So, in our case, in 1972, the first QIZ, or what we call the Free Trade Zone, FTZs, in Malaysia, was created in Penang, where I was teaching in 1972. We had 7 major companies from US, UK, Europe, came and set up their companies there. Labor was cheap. In 1972, it was only a few cents USD per day to get labor. In 1994, when I came back to work in Malaysia, it was only $1.40 USD for labor in Malaysia. It's cheap, very cheap. Now, it's 40 some. 40. It's too expensive. That's why these companies are now moving to China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Bangalore. Because labor in Malaysia has gone up. Okay? So, we saw that and we said we have to change. Because our people are demanding higher pay, you know, trying to behave or to live like the Americans in terms of living standards, but yet we could not afford it. So, by the late 1990s, innovation-led economy is knowledge-based in terms of technology and market. And rewards are rapid and sustainable where it leads to wealth creation. we wanted to have a certain level of USD per capita in order to be recognized as a industrialized, developed nation. For Malaysia, it is 15,000 USD. Right now, we are 9,760 USD. This is 2012 or 2013 now. Our target is 15,000 USD. For Jordan, what is your per income? Sorry, average GDP. Per income per GDP.
Generally 30%.
Find it out. That's your homework. Because the report that I got from Ahmad Rusan is that your salary are still very low.
Not exceeds 700 in average.
An average, yes. And the average Jordanian is
It's about 10,000 annually.
annually. That's about right, because on a monthly basis it's about 1,004, 1,005, which is low. So in order to be a developed nation, something has to happen. Yeah? In our case, we set up the national mission. First, to move the economy up the value chain from production to economy. Yeah? Sorry, no, economy. K economy. Knowledge economy. To raise countries' capacity for knowledge, creativity, and innovation and nurture first-class mentality. If you want to be the Americans, you behave like Americans. You think like Americans. I notice, Jordan, you follow many of the American cultural and societal infrastructure. How you drive on the left side or the right side?
The last one.
Anybody been to America? You went to Canada. Left side or right side? Just like Jordan? Or? Okay. You have already set your vision, not to say be like, when I say be like American, I'm talking about the living standards. Yeah? I'm talking about the living standards, not behave like that.
Americanization.
Yes. Again, it wasn't me. As I go around, I see the way your road signs are. I lived in the US for 11 years. I see how your buildings are structured. I see how the way some, what do you call it? Some cultural things that is happening, and I observe the same thing in America for 11 years. Whether you realize it or not. Okay? I don't say, oh, after this, I don't want to be an American. No. There are some good things we can learn from them. Yeah? There are some good things that we can learn from them. And one of it is how do you raise your standard of living to that of a developed nation. It can be done. America did it during the Cold War. If you remember Kennedy and you remember the race to the moon, America's science and technology education was among the lowest compared to Russia and China at the time. Because they sent a dog to the moon, to the orbit, America had a wake-up call and they banked into their science and education funding. They pump in money so that their people can be highly scientific and highly industrialized in terms of technology. Now, how many of us know of people who migrated to America? Jordanian.
It's look like a dream.
Does everybody who want to migrate were accepted? No. Why?
And I don't like America.
Okay, it's okay. I'm using this as an example.
I don't want to go there.
Good. I want you to stay in.
Interested.
Yes, I want you to stay in Jordan because we need to develop Jordan. But if you notice, and again, I stayed in America 11 years and I saw this. They will only take anybody who can build human capital in America. They will only take the smart ones.
The only thing that America do is stealing people. This is the only thing that she do. And stealing brains.
Right.
America, she have nothing.
Right.
Even she don't have great people. They don't. All the people in America, look, all the smart people in America, they are from different country than America. The region America, the original people for America, they are stupid. Stupid.
Now, that is my point. Now you see, this.
But you
Yeah,
know,
this is true.
sometimes you-
This is true.
Correct. Now, the same thing happening in reverse for your country and for my country. Because our brains are being stolen. Because they can offer.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we have just one mistake.
Yeah.
That we don't read. If we read or if we looking for knowledge, we will change. But we are lazy.
Sir,
You have made that promise to yourself by being here today. You will now read.
Of course.
Yes, sir.
this is theoretical, it's right. But actually, sometimes you don't look to your country or to your society. You just look about yourself.
Right.
In America, they didn't take your stolen your brain. They, in fact,
Yes.
they make your brain and they make you smart and they give you tools and they give you experiences to build something and they give you value.
Right.
In our countries, there is no value for persons.
That's why I say, learn what can be done to our country, our own people. And that's what I'm doing for my people. Because I saw what they did to me. And that's what I'm doing to my Malaysian students in my classes. That I instill this value, that we talk about value, that you are here to create some social changes in Malaysia. Not to go and migrate to US. Now, I'm saying this and I am authority of saying this because I have one sister who migrated to America and I got one sister migrated to Canada. So I'm saying this out of personal experience. I nearly migrated because of the offer. But something in me say, you are needed back home. How do you instill that in your students from kindergarten? That you are needed back home. Okay? Alright. Now, let's not dwell on this. Let's answer Ruba's question. When we embarked on K-economy in 1999, you will see a transition in a few minutes. We say that our K-economy is based on knowledge and it is the driver for economic growth. I remember in 1999, the government said that Malaysia has to generate 25,000 jobs in K-economy, related to K-economy. Can you imagine? Majority of our students were trained to become accountants, engineers, what have you. Now you have to create 25,000 jobs in K-economy. You're talking about programmers, you're talking about IT people. Overnight, the university system was changed. Previously, we talked about business, medical, in all the universities. Overnight, in 1999, all universities were asked by the Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Education, were asked to offer MIS,
IT,
IT,
programs.
all of this. All our lecturers were sent overseas. When they come back, they establish those different programs. They did have that at the time, they called it computer science. But after that, changed everything. It took a government mind to do that. Okay? Now, K-economy encompasses qualitative and quantitative changes that transform the structure, mode, and the way economy operates. In 2 minutes, I will show you what happened to Malaysia, and everybody in Malaysia suddenly felt like, wow, is this like a political thing? But it's not. Yeah? Because you can Google and download all of these reports that I'm showing you, and you can actually see what we are doing. Yeah? Exploitation of intellectual capital, information advantage, learning culture, and agile organization. Many of the dinosaurs had died. Case in point. Remember, 7 of the big samurai or the big companies came to Malaysia in 72. They were given 20 years lease. 72, 92, sorry, 82, 92, 30 years lease, sorry. By 1999, the tax incentive was taken back. All of this company had to divest and create local business, Malaysian business-based IT, knowledge-based companies in 1999. You can check our history. Yeah? Suddenly, people were saying, I'm working with HP, Dell, Motorola. By 1999, people were working with subsidiaries, different companies that were spin-off of these big companies. They are localized. So, in the conference, I heard the word Saudization. You said just now the Jordanization, yeah, or Americanization. Yeah? There needs to be some strategies done to do that. Yeah? And lastly, firms in K economy focus on human capital, R&D capacity, customer database, brand names, and reputation. People, in the free trade zone of Penang, there are 743 companies. When I first joined, there were 500 something. Because of this, previously, remember, it's becoming more costly from 94 to the year 2004 to do your factory there. All the companies moved out to China, to Bangalore, and to Vietnam. The only company we allowed to set up in Malaysia are R&D based. So if the company was to set up, continue, we say yes you can, but it must be R&D based, and then only we will allow tax incentive. Now when you talk about R&D based, what are we talking about? Research and development, people who are intellectual capital. Do you see that change? And we will show you what happened throughout the 5 years, every 5 years of this budget. Yeah? Lastly, in terms of human capital, in the year 2000, the government, people from various sectors of the government came together and said, we need to develop a model called the Malaysian or the National Innovation Model. Now you will see why we say our K economy is innovation and human capital driven. Because when we talk about knowledge and you talk about intellectual capital, what is the product of it? Innovation and creativity. So, there were 8 recommendations: innovation-led economy driven by domestic private enterprise, market-driven innovation, short to medium opportunities, government research in basic science, technology. Oops. Sorry. I think I hide the last slide, so I have to unhide it. Sorry. Never mind, we come back to that. Now, remember P economy, K economy. When we were manufacturing, agricultural, construction, mining, service sector, at that time about, if I'm not mistaken, 2/3 or 67% of the economy was in this area. Now, only 29% of our GDP comes from that segment. Now, majority of our, 55% of our income of the nation comes from this segment. K-based sectors, service-based sectors. Previously, land, labor, capital. Now, we're talking about intellectual capital, knowledge, and increasing return to scale. Previously, we're talking about hierarchical organization. Even government, our government, and I think your government practice the same thing, very hierarchical. Now, no. We learn from Dubai. Sheikh Maktoum said that previously, or not said that, but previously, it took about a month or so for businesses to be set up in Dubai.
Now maybe need 1 week, 24 hours.
24 hours. Mahathir saw that and said, for Malaysia, I give you 2 days. So you can imagine the Ministry of our Trade and Industry really had to do a major turnaround. 2 days. From what used to take up to 3 months to get clearance. 2 days. Our visa used to take quite a number of days. Now you can get it the same day. Same thing. Our Malaysia have our national ID, just like you guys have your national ID. Now you used to take 3 months. Now you can go in the morning, come back at 2, and get your national ID. Total change in terms of how government service delivery and the rest. Yeah. So again, my goal is not to impress you. My goal is to scare you about the what needs to happen in this country. If you Google, you can download both reports, and I can provide it in you both reports. Read this report, because the government embarked on this transformation, our version of Arab Spring, 2 ways. First, you have to change the government, then you have to change the economy. So you have the government transformation program, version 1, 2, 3, and the economic transformation program. Let me go one by one. In the government version program, we are now phase 2. There are 7 national key result areas. In the report, you can see our report card. Not everything we have achieved, but this is actually to generate confidence in investors to continue FDI into Malaysia. Address the rising cost of living. The government now is providing affordable living apartments for Malaysians. I noticed Jordan has a lot of land. Malaysia also has a lot of land, but now the land is better utilized. In the old days, the government had all these quarters. Now they demolish all of the quarters and build high rises so that all the low income people can afford housing. Sorry. Secondly, reducing crime and fighting corruption. Corruption is rampant, and I think many countries are facing the same problem. Now, our MACC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, make it very public. Anybody, any government servant and any private individual who is involved in corruption. One of the problems that we saw is that our people, when they finish their primary school, secondary school, they don't go to. In Jordan, what I understand is baccalaureate is common. Many people have baccalaureate. What are they doing? Are they using the knowledge, skills, abilities, and competencies that they've learned in their baccalaureate? Yes. We need to change something. For Malaysia, our struggle is the other way. We still have a lot of people who are still not reaching that level yet. Okay? Raising living standards of low-income household, we remove the low-income household up a threshold, so that now the low-income threshold is, if I'm not mistaken, 400 USD. Yeah, from before. Sorry, 400 USD monthly. So even the minimum pay for employees is 1,005. Yeah. Previously, the starting pay for a baccalaureate engineer was 2,004. A starting pay for baccalaureate, I'm talking about Malaysian ringgit. Sorry, talking Malaysian ringgit. For 1,004